आज है तीसरा व्लॉग। बीच में हमने थोड़ी ब्रेक ले ली थी क्योंकि हमारी शिफ्ट लेजी भी हो गए थे और नाइट शिफ्ट चल रही थी तो पूरा दिन सोना होता था। I didn't accept that I got lazy.
You just accepted, हाँ lazy.
I'm not lazy in general, लेकिन
Oh really? मुझसे कोई पूछे किशमिश जूस लेना, किशमिश पानी लेना।
चलो चलो बहुत हो गया, अब स्टार्ट करना है व्लॉग।
किशमिश मेरे कपड़े निकाल दो।
अच्छा ठीक है चलो। आज है 20 जून और आज छुट्टी हो चुकी है। शी इज गोइंग टू बी ऑफ फॉर नेक्स्ट पता नहीं 15 दिन 2 हफ्ते, पर सैलरी इसे मिल चुकी है। हाँ, फ्री सैलरी ले रही हो घर बैठे बैठे। यहाँ लोगों को सैलरी नहीं मिल रही हो, यहाँ बैठ के सैलरी ले रही है और जॉब चेंज करा रही है। एनीवेज मेरा ऑफ डे है। हेलो हेलो बाद में करेंगे।
मेरी गलती नहीं, उन्होंने मुझे बिल्डिंग नहीं दी।
प्लान था कि थोड़ी सी पढ़ाई करेंगे Airbus A320 and I'm going to launch a separate channel in which we will be discussing Airbus A320 only. I know there are a lot of people out over there जिनको जानना है कि एयरक्राफ्ट में कौन से बटन्स होते हैं, क्या क्या कंट्रोल्स होते हैं, या जो ऑलरेडी एस्पायरिंग पायलट्स हैं अपनी ट्रेनिंग में हैं, they would like to have a learning tool. So I am also a trainee pilot and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start learning myself and thereby start teaching all the aspiring pilots out over there. चुप करोगे तो कुछ सीरियस बात हो रही है इधर। So I don't know what the name of the channel will be, but it will be dedicated only for Airbus A320 and we will discuss everything right from the system. Guys, तो ये हमारा अभी सेटअप होगा। It is a makeshift setup क्योंकि ये हमारा घर परमानेंट नहीं है, but we are trying to do our best. This is actually my gaming laptop, but this is the only Windows laptop that I have, so I'll be using this largely to record the A320 videos, and that's my dedicated wed lamp, and this is a study lamp और मेरा JBL का speaker. This is a mini tripod. We'll see how to use it. और एक Amazon से एक mount भी use किया है, which will be a top-down view for the smartphone, which will assist me in basically recording the videos. तो जब तक वो नहीं आ जाता तब तक देखते हैं कैसे चलाएंगे, लेकिन द प्लान इज़ टू लॉन्च द चैनल वेरी वेरी सून एंड शेयर द नॉलेज विद ऑल ऑफ यू। सारे बैलून्स निकल गए हैं, 31 रह गए एज अ रिमाइंडर कि यू आर गेटिंग ओल्डर। 31। यहाँ के गुब्बारे भी ऑलमोस्ट निकल चुके हैं। एक्चुअली हुआ क्या कि हमारी वहाँ AC की डक्ट है, तो बिकॉज ऑफ द टेम्परेचर डिफरेंस ऑफ कोल्ड हॉट वो नीचे गिरते गए और यहाँ रह गए हैं। चल लेकिन फटता है ठा, रात को नींद जग जाती है।
आप डर।
तो अब हमारा तीसरा व्लॉग हम अपने DJI Osmo 3 से शूट करने वाले हैं। क्या कहते हैं इसे? DJI Osmo Mobile 3, दैट इज द एक्चुअल नेम। तो डू लेट अस नो हाउ द स्टेबिलिटी इज, क्योंकि हम भी पहली बार ये प्रोडक्ट यूज कर रहे हैं एंड वी आर लर्निंग ऑन हाउ टू यूज द प्रोडक्ट्स। आई थॉट यूजिंग गिम्बल वाज एक्चुअली मच सिंपलर, बट इट इज नॉट because it's slightly tricky because आपको पता नहीं है कि गिम्बल की ओरिएंटेशन क्या होने वाली है, because it can move in any orientation in the space. So it has certain moves and it has a sports mode, so basically the camera follows me. लेकिन I think इस पे एक अलग सी वीडियो बननी चाहिए कि गिम्बल को कैसे यूज़ करते हैं। But by doing the research of all the gimbals available in the market, जो सबसे अच्छा रिव्यूज़ था, जो सबसे बैलेंस था प्रोज एंड कॉन्स में, वो यही था DJI Osmo Mobile वर्जन 3 एंड इट इज़ अ वेरी कॉम्पैक्ट प्रोडक्ट। तो जब मेरे को टाइम मिलेगा तब मैं आपको ये प्रोडक्ट भी दिखाऊंगा एंड व्हाट ऑल मूव्स एंड ट्रिक्स आई विल बी यूजिंग फॉर शूटिंग दीज वीडियोज। बट सो फार आई हैव बीन लाइकिंग द प्रोडक्ट। इट इज़ वेरी स्टेबल, वेरी स्मूथ, ट्रांजिशन बहुत ही अच्छा है एंड इट हैज़ अ वेरी गुड फीचर कॉल्ड एक्टिव ट्रैक। सो बेसिकली इट विल फॉलो मी। लेट मी शो यू हाउ दैट वर्क्स। So guys, this is active track. Basically the camera is going to follow me, or rather the gimbal will follow me, but the problem is of the 3x3 grid it only focuses what is in the center. So if I'm gently walking, it is going to follow me. I think it is pretty cool. So ये किशमिश आ गई मेरे पीछे तंग करने फिर से. But if I try to move a little too fast, then it will lose track. तो उसके लिए फिर हमें वापस आना पड़ेगा सेंटर में. करने दो ना. See, now it lost me. So now I have to basically track it again. There it is. See, it is going to follow you, but very slowly. It's following you. So guys, this is the active track feature. So wherever she's going to move now, because the camera is focusing on her face, go a little fast, but very slowly. And go right and left. So I think it's a very good feature. अगर आपको presentation देनी है, and you know, if you are gently walking on a stage, and it's a small audience. So for recording purpose, I think this is a great tool, है ना? एक काम करेंगे आज,
मैं इधर उधर जाती हूँ ना, पीछे से कीरी और ये ब्रेड गायब हो जाती है,
क्योंकि सबसे अच्छा है ये. बस छोटा सा पाव में लगाया और इसके अंदर खीरा टमाटर भरा और खा लिया. चल
अभी खीरा टमाटर
अभी नहीं, बाद में बनाएंगे उसको टाट की तरह अच्छा सा. अब हमारे पास एक न्यू पैकेट आने लग गया है खाने का. खाना काफी अच्छा हो गया, इतना अच्छा हो गया कि नाउ इट्स लाइक सिंफुल फूड. खाने के बाद थोड़ा गिल्टी लगता है, लॉट ऑफ गिल्टी प्लेजर. आज दिखाएंगे पैकेट में क्या आता है. सिर्फ चिकन और लैम्प की ऑप्शन है. अभी वेज तो आ नहीं रहा, सो वी डोंट प्रेफर लैम्प, बट द चिकन इज माइंड ब्लोइंग. कल सब बोल रहे थे सुपर बिरयानी, सुपर ये सुपर बिरयानी है, सुपर.
कौन बोल रहा है?
वो वॉलंटियर. ये सुपर बिरयानी. ये सुपर, ये सुपर.
मैं बोल क्या हूँ उसको,
छोटा सा है, 21 इयर्स का है सिर्फ.
बेचारा यार, सो स्वीट ऑफ हिम नो कि वो कर रहा है ऐसे टाइम पे वॉलंटियरिंग.
किशमिश को विजिट वीजा पे आया हुआ है. किसी के पास जॉब नहीं है. जो इधर हैं सारे, दे आर हियर बिकॉज दे आर नॉट एबल टू फॉलो देयर रियल पर्पस इन लाइफ. जैसे कि भाई काम तो हमारा भी ये नहीं है, लेकिन ठीक है कर रहे हैं. बेटर टू बी डूइंग समथिंग एंड बीइंग एक्टिव. हाँ, घर पे नहीं बैठा जाता, वो बात तो बिल्कुल सही है.
तो फिर कितनी अच्छी बात है that you got this opportunity at this time to do.
अभी हम पी रहे हैं चाय. ये है ऑर्गेनिक इंडिया की टी. काफ़ी हेल्दी टीज हैं और काफ़ी अच्छे ब्लेंड्स हैं. ये है तुलसी लेमन जिंजर, कोरोना के लिए शायद ये ज़्यादा रिकमेंडेड है. और ये है तुलसी टमी विच इज़ गुड फॉर द डाइजेशन. तो ये तो एक्सपोर्ट पैक है ना, पर ये सब इंडिया से आती हैं. आई लाइक दिस वन, दिस इज माई फेवरेट. तुम पी रही हो? कौन सी चाय पियोगी? मैडम पीती है अपनी ये थैली वाली चाय, जिससे इनको वॉशरूम जाना होता है सुबह सुबह. इट्स कॉल्ड स्लिमिंग टी. स्लिमिंग हुई है कोई है? हुई है स्लिमिंग? कहाँ से स्लिमिंग हुई है बताना जरा.
बहुत अच्छी है वो.
अच्छी है, कोई टेस्ट तो है नहीं. देखो क्या क्या सामान रखा हुआ है ऊपर.
हाँ, सब मैंने रखा है ना, आपने तो कुछ रखा ही नहीं.
ये सीरियल
ये
जब मंगाए थे,
किसने रखी है खाली?
ये सीरियल ये कौन खाएगा?
दूध नहीं है.
जब होता है तब मैंगो शेक्स.
किसकी गलती?
ये क्या है? अब टूटी फ्रूटी केक. अब ये केक खाया जा रहा है, टूटी फ्रूटी. मार्बल केक भी खा लो. मार्बल केक गया किधर? ये ना भाई, ये ना तुम्हारा फेवरेट, ये लो फाउंटेन। और ये रही मैडम की कौन सी है, हर्बल स्लिमिंग टी, 2+1 फ्री। Hello everybody, my name is Saurabh Kumar and I'm a pilot by profession. I was going through my YouTube feed and I came across the Flying Beast's video on which he has discussed extensively about the usage of flap, be it flap 3 or flap full landings, and how the company that he works for, which is Tata Air Asia India, wants its pilots to achieve flap 3 landing 98% of the times. Well, there is no hard and fast rule whether you have to make a landing with flap 3 or flap full. As he rightly pointed out in his video, it all depends on a lot of external conditions. It depends upon the policy of the airline. It depends upon what are the operational practices which are recommended by the manufacturer, but you cannot set it in hard stone that it has to be a flap 3 or a flap full landing only, because then you're compromising on safety. And I wanted to basically discuss a little more on this issue because I'm sure a lot of people do not understand what is the purpose of the flaps, or why do we have flap 3, why do we have flap full. And with the help of the A320 animation, which is what the aircraft was talked about, I would like to share information on the usage. While vlog 3 is still under process and I know it has been a few days since we have updated a new video, I wanted to talk about a video which was posted by the Flying Beast, which was on the usage of the flap configuration when it comes to landing. He discussed about two flap configuration, that is flap 3 and flap full, and he has accused his airline of basically compromising on the safety, wherein he states that the company wants its pilots to use flap 3 for landing 98% of the time. Now you can land the Airbus A320 aircraft, which is the mentioned aircraft and which is what Flying Beast is a captain on, in configuration 3 and in configuration full. Now I know a lot of you do not understand basically what is a flap, what is configuration 3, what is configuration 4, and that was the whole reason as to why I wanted to make this video. So I'm going to keep it very simple without using a lot of technicalities, and basically slice and dice the matter that he has spoken about, which is to do with flaps. Now the usage of flaps, be it flap 3 or flap full, depends on a lot of conditions. These can be external factors like environmental factors. This could be based upon the length of the runway. It could depend upon what is the elevation of the airport. Is your airport at sea level, such as in Dubai, or is it at a higher elevation? Some airports in mountainous areas. What is the length of the runway, as I stated? What are the wind conditions like? Do you have a tailwind? Do you have headwind? What is the slope of the runway? Where would you like to exit from the runway, which is what we call the taxiway. So runway is where you land on. Once you exit that piece of strip, you basically are moving the aircraft onto the taxiway. And so taxiway is like a road which takes you from the runway to the parking at the airport, which is what we call apron as well. So when you are using flap 3, what you are essentially doing is basically selecting your flap configuration which is at a lesser angle. So for example, flap 1 could be 10 degrees, flap 2 could be 20, flap 3 30, and flap full could be 40, so to speak. The actual numbers I will describe in another series in which I'm going to extensively talk on A320 system knowledge only, but that is for the later. For now, let us just stick to flap 3 and flap full. Now his company has mandated their pilots to actually use flap 3 for 98% of their landings. Why is the company asking their pilots to do flap 3 and not flap full? Because it's all about the cost. At the end of the day, for a budget carrier, the main cost is fuel. And using flap 3 basically allows you to come at a slightly higher speed for the given weight of the aircraft as compared to flap full. So would it be right to say that flap full is safer than flap 3? Yes, it is much safer, but this does not mean that you cannot go with flap 3, because this is suggested by the Airbus, which is the manufacturer who has actually constructed the aircraft, who has extensively tested and who has assured its operators, which are the airlines, that the aircraft can land in flap 3 and it can land in flap full in certain conditions, which are the external conditions which I just mentioned, which could be based on the requirement of the airline, which can be based upon the decision of the pilot. But it is the PIC, or the pilot in control, who is the captain of the aircraft, who sits on the left hand seat, who has the final authority to make this decision on the basis of all the factors. And experience also counts a lot in all of these cases. We cannot have a mandate that this has to be done in this particular way only, because then we are basically establishing an SOP, which are standard operating procedures. And SOPs are established in the interest of the safety. But when you are mandating that you have to land no matter what in flap 3 only, you are basically inviting a lot of risk. The safety will be compromised because flap 3 is not suitable in every given condition. Yes, you can use flap 3, for example, to land at Delhi airport because it has a long runway over 3,000 meters or 3 kilometers. But the same cannot be said for an airport which is, for example, like a tabletop runway in Mangalore or somewhere in the northeast. So eventually the authority rests with the pilot. I'm going to describe a little bit more about the flap configuration in A320, why we use it, how many different types of flaps are there, when do we use the flaps, do we have to use the flaps, and how much fuel can be saved with and without, and what are the conditions in which we should use flap 3 and in which we should use flap full. But again, there is no such hard and fast rule. Both the configurations have been designed and they are approved by the manufacturer, which is the Airbus, to be used for landing. But the discretion lies with the captain at the end of the day. So friends, what exactly are flaps? Flaps are basically located on the wings, on the trailing edge, on the back side of the wing. So basically, if you are looking at the aircraft towards the nose of the airplane, the flaps are on the rear edge of the wings. And then we also have something called slats, which are located in front of the wings, which is the leading edge of the wing. Both of these devices, they move on the wing. They're hydraulically actuated and they can be moved from the cockpit using the help of a lever. In A320, we have 4 flap configurations: flap 1, flap 2, flap 3, flap full, and there's another one which is called flap 1 plus F. I will explain again all these configurations in another topic, which is going to be extensively on the flight control surfaces, and which will also include the flaps. So why do we use flaps? That should be the first question. We have the wings, right, which is what provides lift to the airplane, right? That is the wing. But on the wing, we have a lot of other movable, I would say, control surfaces. So next time when you are sitting at the emergency exit row seat and you're overlooking the wing, you will see a lot of devices which keep moving from time to time. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, sometimes they slide backwards or forwards, depending upon how you look at it and where are you seated on the airplane. But essentially, each of these surfaces have a role to play. But coming back to flaps. So flaps are also called high lift devices. What essentially they're doing is they're providing you extra lift at the time of takeoff and when you're coming in for landing. Now we use different configurations. For example, the takeoff can be done in configuration 1 or in configuration 2. The landing can be done in configuration 3 or in configuration full. The landing can be done in configuration 1 or just configuration 2 because you'll be coming too fast. So let's talk about the takeoff part first. So what happens is that during the time of takeoff, the engines are spooling up, right? You have given full thrust bump and your speed is very low. So basically you need to accelerate and you need to get away from the ground and climb with a better gradient as soon as possible so that you can clear the obstacles, you can clear the traffic. So what basically the flaps are doing is they're giving you that extra buffet or margin at that slow speed by giving you extra lift. So if you look at the surface of the wing, the more the area that you have, which is just one of the factors for the lift, the better lift the airplane will have. So smaller the, let's say, the surface area of the wing, the lesser the lift you will have. This is just one factor, like I said again. So at the time of takeoff, you need a lot of lift. You are very heavy and you are at a slow speed as compared to what you would be cruising at. So these devices basically give you additional boost, let's say, in terms of lift to get you off the ground as soon as possible. Now coming to the landing part, again, you're cruising really fast. You must have seen in your IFE screens, you're cruising at 800 to 900 kilometers per hour. Now that is really fast for an aircraft to come and land at. Approximately, let's say an approach speed for an aircraft would be around 130, 140 knots, which roughly equates to about, let's say, 250 kilometers per hour. So that is the speed at which you would like to touch down at. But you have so much of energy and you need to dissipate this energy. The only way to do that is by the usage of flaps, because if we just continue to slow down the airplane, eventually we will lose the lift. So to sustain that same amount of lift as we are coming down at slow or low speed, we need to use these flaps. So when I use flap 1, I reduce my speed by certain margin. Flap 2, I reduce more. Flap 3, I reduce certain more. So flap 3 is the first configuration that is recommended by Airbus, that yes, at flap 3, let's say your speed reduces to 150 knots, you can land. Flap full will, let's say, just a hypothetical figure, might reduce my speed further down to 144 or 140 knots, right? So I'm coming at a much slower speed now, which means that the aircraft is dragging along a little more. So the more area that I expose myself or towards the wind, the slower I will become because of the resistance of the air. It's like when you're putting your hand outside of the window of the car, and if you bring in your complete hand forward, you feel a lot of drag and resistance. However, if you just try to narrow down your fist, it just creates a very sleek area, and then you automatically get the sensation of the lifting of the hand. Same principle in the flight as well. So lesser the area, the faster you go. The more area that you produce, the slower you go because of the friction and the dynamics. So this is the whole argument that the Flying Beast has discussed about in his video, that his airline wants him to use flap 3 so that he can come at a much, or let's say slightly faster speed, thereby burn less fuel. But then it has its own complications. At certain airports, you're coming down at a very steep approach because you may have a mountain on the final approach towards the runway. And if you're coming much steeper, which means you'll be coming much faster, which means you'll be touching down at a higher speed, which means that the rate of deceleration on the runway will be very less. The runway could be very short. It may not be a very long runway. It could be raining. The runway might be wet. It could be damp. Thereby, the braking action will be reduced. So there are so many factors to be considered, and it largely comes through experience. It is not, just science in itself. It has an element of art as well. Which determines which flap the captain or the pilot in command or pilot flying must use for his decision making. And definitely it cannot be mandated that one has to use flap 3 only, because then you're inviting a lot of risks. And unfortunately, passengers are unaware about all these technicalities. I understand where the airlines are coming from. The profit margins in airline business are razor thin. Everybody thinks that airline is a very lucrative business, but that is not true. Pilots do a lot to save the fuel for the airline. They taxi using single engine because on the ground you don't need two engines. The A320 aircraft is actually overpowered with the type of engines that it has. It has two types of engines. One is from the IAE and the other one is from the CFM. But both are overpowered because the aircraft is capable of flying even on a single engine. Airlines mandate their pilots to use very few braking applications, thereby reducing the brake and wear and tear on the tires and the brakes because they're very expensive. Single engine taxi and usage of the ground power and not to depend upon the engine power for providing pneumatics and the electrics because that burns a lot of fuel. So there are a lot of tricks that the airlines try to incorporate within the standard operating procedures which are recommended by the manufacturer and tweak it which suits their business model. But then you have to draw a line. You cannot cross that line because the question is, okay, I can save money over here, I can cut costs from the staff, I can cut the cost operationally, I can roster my pilots much more efficiently, I can devise my network and route planning in such a way that the aircraft is never on the ground for more than 20 minutes, I have a quick turnaround. But every factor is not in your control because you are codependent on the traffic. There are other airlines, there are other operators, there is air traffic management, there are technological hassles. So if you continue to stretch the system and go beyond the line of the safety, then it becomes a problem because now you are inviting trouble. And this is a ticking time bomb. You may do, let's say, flap 3 landing and you may have succeeded 9 out of 10 times, but what about the 10th time? You don't know, what factor may go wrong. So safety is everybody's responsibility. And eventually it is the pilot who has the decision-making power because the airline is not going to blame the passengers should a mishap take place. Especially in aviation business, it's very common to blame the pilots until the investigation is over. So if you are going to be abiding by what the airline is telling you and in your opinion that does compromise on the safety, you should speak up, and I think the gentleman has actually taken the right measure. But I know what the airline strategy was behind driving these decisions. It is very common all across the world, especially with the mushrooming of the budget carriers, because at the end of the day you're keeping your costs low, you're trying to keep a healthy balance sheet, and the world has become so tumultuous that any pandemic, any terrorist attack, any small incident first affects the aviation market, and everything has come to a complete halt given what has happened. So I think it is a collective responsibility of the regulator of the country, the airline, the manufacturer, and there has to be a safety culture which should be promoted, and people should not be penalized. That is what my opinion is. Pilots are thoroughly trained and they are professional enough to follow their standard operating procedures and then rely on their experience and judgment to take a final decision in the interest of the safety, because it's not the airline that will be penalized should an accident take place. Well, they would be if they have safety lapses, but the loss of the lives will be suffered by the passengers and the crew themselves. So it is the pilot's responsibility to look after the interest of the the passengers, their safety, and of the aircraft and of the other traffic as well. It's a shared environment and it's a collective responsibility. So let me show you where exactly do pilots actually control the movement of the flaps from? So this is an application on the iPad called A320, and it is free to use. You all can download it, and I will be using the same application for tutoring the Airbus system knowledge in the coming series as well. But for now, let's just jump to the lever, which is located here. So this is where the captain sits, this is where the co-pilot or the first officer sits, and the flap lever is located over here. So as you can see, there is flap 0, flap 1, flap 2, flap 3 and flap full. So flap 3 and flap full are the recommended ones for the landing. And there is another switch which is located on the overhead panel over here. You will see landing flap 3, right? This button over here. So we press this button anytime we are going in for flap 3 landing, because if we will not press this button, the aircraft will assume that you are not configured for landing, because by default you should always come in flap full. But you can come in flap 3, but you have to press this button. Otherwise, the aircraft will give you warnings that you're not in the right configuration, and then you will have to execute a go around, which is a missed approach. So, which means that the aircraft is designed in such a manner that we can actually land in configuration 3 and in configuration full. There are some speed limitations as well, which you can see over here. There's a placard located. So if I have extended flap 1, the maximum speed of the aircraft, this is specifically for Airbus A320, is 230 knots. Configuration 1 plus F, I will again speak about it a little later, is 215 knots, which means that 1 denotes slat and F denotes the position of the flaps. Like I said, slats are located in front of the wing, the flaps are located at the trailing edge or behind the wing. For now, these are just speed limitations. That's all I want to tell you basically. So if I want to extend flap 2, my aircraft cannot exceed 200 knots. So I will wait for the speed to drop below 200, then I will go for flap 2. Similarly, flap 3, 185. Flap full, 177. This is a structural limitation of the aircraft, because the more surface that I'm exposing to the wind, I have a limitation, right? Everything has a structural limitation, which are the shear forces that can be applied on it, the resistance of the wind, beyond which it will be disintegrated. So these are defined by the manufacturer, and this is done during the certification of the aircraft, and this is defined by the Airbus. This is also part of our limitations, and this pilot must know by memory. We cannot forget these numbers. There are some more numbers such as 250, 220, 280. We'll discuss about all these numbers. So my idea is basically I want to run a series on Airbus A320 wherein I want to describe every button for all the aspiring pilots, and also for those who already are qualified and very experienced and professional pilots, so that it can be a refresher knowledge. I'm a second officer myself, and I have just started my career, so it will help me to brush up my knowledge while teaching. At the same time, you can benefit from the knowledge that I would share. And of course, I would love to hear your comments and feedback in the section below on what you would like to see, what you would like to discuss, and correct me if I am wrong somewhere, because this is knowledge and it's all about correcting each other, sharing and learning from each other, and thereby there should be cross-pollination of seamless information. All in all, what I want to say is that I think what Flying Beast has done is quite commendable, because it is not easy to actually be the lone person and raise your voice against the system. And he's doing this in the interest of the safety, and I know the airlines will retaliate, and they have the full support, they have the muscle, financials, the lawyers, but I think aviation is a very tricky business, and if something has to be done in the interest of the safety, then everyone should have an opinion, and everybody should have the right to express that opinion. For now, that's all I want to discuss about, just the flaps and give you an idea about what exactly Flying Beast was referring to. Apart from that, I would also be sharing a lot of resources once I have the structure in my mind as to how to go about with the Airbus A320 knowledge. If you have any comments, any feedback on how you would like to see me integrate the A320 product, what you would like to know, how I can enhance the knowledge base of all the aspiring pilots out over there. Would you like to know, apart from A320, anything else which is aviation specific? Do let me know, so that it will keep me motivated to make such videos in the future. Thank you for watching this video.